My mom assumed I'm bi or gay and told everyone now. Her words won't stop echoing in my head. I never thought a rumor started by my own mother would make me question who I am, but now I can't shake this sinking feeling every time I look in the mirror. It all started with an innocent comment. My family was always close, maybe too close at times. My mom and sister would always joke around poking fun at my friend Mark whenever he visited. "When's your boyfriend coming over?" they'd say, or "Do you want to see your boyfriend?" They would laugh, but there was something behind those words that lingered in the air. I never thought much of it until they started saying it more often. At first it felt like just another teasing remark. It didn't bother me much. I shrugged it off, joking along with them. After all, I had girlfriends, so the idea that I was gay or bi didn't even cross my mind. But recently something started to shift. It wasn't just my sister joking anymore. She asked me one day out of nowhere, "Are you gay or bi?" I was stunned. She didn't even give me a chance to answer before she added, "It's because Mark always touches you when he's around." I laughed it off, trying to act unbothered. "What do you mean?" I asked. I wasn't used to this kind of questioning. She shrugged like it was nothing. "It's just that he's more touchy than your other friends. It feels kind of different." I knew what she meant. Mark was always physical, a hug here, a playful shove there, but it wasn't anything out of the ordinary for me. I did that with my friends too. But now that I thought about it, Mark did seem a little different. Was it because of how often he would touch me, or was it just because we were so comfortable around each other? Still, it wasn't enough to make me think there was anything wrong. I'd always felt like I could be open about anything with my family, but this conversation left a strange taste in my mouth. It wasn't the question itself that bothered me, but the idea that my family was so focused on my friendship with Mark. It was like they were trying to place me in a box I didn't fit in. But there was something deeper that was beginning to bother me. My mom, who had always been the one to laugh off my sister's jokes, had started to give me looks whenever Mark came over. It was subtle at first, a long, thoughtful gaze when he left, or a quiet sigh when I mentioned him. I noticed, but I didn't say anything. Then came the day that I overheard a conversation between my mom and sister. I had just come home from hanging out with Mark and was about to walk up the stairs when I heard my mom say, "I think he might be gay or bi." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I stopped in my tracks, frozen. My heart raced as I listened to her voice, calm and matter-of-fact. "I'm just worried because he hasn't brought a girl around in a while. And he spends so much time with Mark." My world shifted. I felt like the ground beneath me had disappeared and suddenly I was sinking. The rest of the conversation was a blur, but I caught enough. My mom had been talking about me. She hadn't asked me how I felt, hadn't tried to understand what was really going on. She had just decided, without ever talking to me about it, that I might be gay or bi. And worse, she had been sharing these thoughts with my family. It wasn't the fact that she might think I'm gay or bi that stung the most. It was the fact that she had made that decision without giving me the chance to express myself, without asking me how I felt or what I was going through. My heart started to pound harder, my mind racing. I had always been open with my family. They were supposed to be the ones I could trust, the ones who would listen, but now it felt like they were labeling me, painting me into a corner. I didn't know how to feel. On one hand, I didn't care if my family thought I was gay or bi. It wasn't anyone's business. But on the other hand, it hurt to know that they hadn't even asked me. They just assumed. And now they were discussing it with everyone else. It felt like my whole life was being examined, my every move scrutinized. I had no control over this narrative they were writing about me. I thought back to the way my mom would sometimes glance at me when Mark came over. It was never in a disapproving way, but it was enough to make me wonder. What did she see when she looked at me? What was she thinking? I knew she loved me. But this felt like something else. It felt like a judgment. I wanted to tell her everything, but how could I? How could I tell her that the thing that bothered me the most wasn't her thinking I might be gay or bi? It was the fact that she had never asked me about it. I was just a topic of conversation for her to dissect and share with others. And then there was my sister. She had become my confidant, but now I didn't even know if I could trust her anymore. She had told me what my mom thought, but she had also told me not to confront her about it. "Mom doesn't want you to know," she had said. "She's not ready to talk about it with you." But why wasn't she? Why didn't my mom want to talk to me directly? I felt like I was being left in the dark, expected to follow a script I didn't even know existed. I had always thought that when you had questions about yourself, you went to the people you trusted. But in this case, the one person I should have been able to trust, my mom, was the one who was keeping me in the dark. I wanted to confront her. I wanted to ask her what she really thought, to tell her how hurt I was by the fact that she was sharing her suspicions with everyone else instead of talking to me. But there was a part of me that was scared of what she might say, scared of what it would mean for our relationship if I brought this up. As the days passed, I found myself growing more and more anxious. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Was I gay? Was I bi? Was I something else? These questions flooded my mind, and I couldn't answer them. And worse, I couldn't tell anyone how I was feeling. My mom had already made up her mind, and my sister had told me to stay quiet. It felt like I was trapped, like I couldn't escape this box that everyone was trying to put me in. But what if I didn't fit in the box they were creating for me? What if I was something different, something I hadn't even figured out yet? I was afraid that by the time I figured it out, everyone else would have already decided for me. The weight of my mom's unspoken assumptions about me seemed to grow heavier with each passing day. I couldn't escape the feeling that my every move was being watched, analyzed, and discussed behind my back. My world felt like it was shifting beneath me, but I was stuck in the middle of it, unable to control what was happening around me. Mark and I had always been close friends, but now every time I was with him, I felt a tight knot in my stomach. Was I really different with him? Was I giving off some kind of vibe that everyone else could see? But I couldn't. It wasn't that I was worried about people thinking I was gay or bi. What bothered me was the fact that they had already assumed, and no one had bothered to ask me what I thought or how I felt. My mom's actions made me feel like I had become a topic for casual discussion, a puzzle to be solved by everyone but me. One evening, I found myself sitting at the dinner table, barely touching my food. The air was thick with unspoken words. My mom and sister were talking about something mundane, but I couldn't focus on their conversation. My mind was elsewhere, stuck on what I had overheard that afternoon. My mom had told my sister that she thought I was gay or bi, and my sister had mentioned it to me in confidence, telling me not to say anything to our mom. But how could I just keep quiet? This was my life, my identity, and yet it felt like it was slipping away, being shaped by other people's expectations. I was lost in my thoughts when my sister suddenly spoke. "Hey, are you all right?" she asked, looking at me with concern. I nodded quickly, trying to act normal, but I could see the worry in her eyes. She knew something was off. "I'm fine," I said, forcing a smile, but I could see the skepticism on her face. "Are you sure?" she pressed. "You've been acting weird lately. Is it about Mom? You know about what she thinks of you?" The words hit me like a slap to the face. I felt my chest tighten as I tried to hold back the anger and frustration bubbling inside of me. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She hesitated before replying. "You know, what Mom says about you and Mark. She thinks you're gay, or at least bi. I heard her talking about it again today. She's been telling everyone, even her friends. It's messing with your head, isn't it?" I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how unfair it was that I was being labeled without my consent, without even being asked how I felt. But I just sat there frozen. My sister was right. It was messing with my head. "I don't know what to think anymore," I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. "I've always been me. I've always liked girls, but now I feel like I don't even know who I am anymore. Everything's so messed up." My sister sighed, and I could tell she didn't know how to help me. "Maybe you should talk to Mom about it. I don't know what she's thinking, but this has to stop. You need to tell her how you feel." I shook my head. I can't just confront her about it. What if she doesn't listen? What if it makes things worse? My sister was quiet for a moment, and then she said something that hit me harder than I expected. "You can't just let her control everything. You're allowed to make your own decisions. You're allowed to be yourself, whatever that means." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But I couldn't shake the feeling that my mom's assumptions had already changed the way everyone saw me. How could I possibly tell her what was really going on inside my head when she had already made up her mind? And worse, what if I told her and she pushed me further away? The next few days were a blur of confusion. Every time I saw my mom, I couldn't help but wonder what she was thinking. Was she still talking about me behind my back? Was she still telling everyone what she suspected about me? I tried to act normal, tried to push the thoughts out of my mind, but it wasn't working. The weight of the silence between us was unbearable. One afternoon, I found myself sitting alone in my room, staring at the walls. My phone buzzed with a message from Mark. "Hey, you good? Haven't seen you in a while." I felt a pang of guilt. Mark had been my friend for years, but lately, I couldn't shake the feeling that our friendship was being examined under a microscope. I didn't want him to think that things were different between us, but they felt different. Everything felt different now. I quickly replied, "Yeah, I'm fine. Just dealing with some family stuff." Mark responded almost immediately, "If you ever want to talk, I'm here for you." I appreciated his support, but I wasn't ready to share all of this with him. I wasn't even sure what was going on inside my own head, let alone how to explain it to someone else. As the evening wore on, I found myself lost in thought. What did I want? What did I need from my family? From my mom? From myself? The questions were endless, and I felt like I was drowning in them. I had always prided myself on knowing who I was, on being confident in my identity. But now I was questioning everything. I knew I needed to talk to my mom, but I wasn't sure where to start. How could I confront her about something as delicate as this without making everything worse? The thought of sitting down with her, of facing her and telling her how much this was hurting me, made my stomach turn. But deep down, I knew that silence wasn't the answer. If I didn't say something, I would continue to live in this shadow of doubt, wondering if my mom would ever really see me for who I was, not for the labels she had placed on me. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that this wasn't just about my mom's assumptions. This was about me finding my own voice, my own truth. Whether I was gay, bi, or something else entirely, it didn't matter. What mattered was that I needed to own my identity, and that meant confronting the people I loved, even if it was hard. So the next time I saw my mom, I knew I had to speak up. I had to ask her what she really thought and tell her how I felt. Because if I didn't, I might lose myself in the process. And I wasn't ready to let that happen. The days leading up to the conversation with my mom were filled with anxiety. I found myself obsessing over what I would say, how I would say it, and whether it would change everything between us. It wasn't just about coming out or revealing my sexuality. It was about asserting my identity, my autonomy, and my right to define myself. But the thought of confronting my mom, someone who had always been such a significant part of my life, filled me with dread. One evening, I finally decided that it was time. I couldn't keep living in this limbo. I had to confront the elephant in the room. My mom was in the kitchen cooking dinner as usual. The smell of pasta sauce filled the air, and there was a normalcy to the scene that made me feel like a stranger. The kitchen, usually a place of comfort, felt like a battleground now. I hesitated at the doorway, watching her as she moved around the kitchen. My mind raced with 1,000 different thoughts. What if she didn't listen? What if she got angry? What if she didn't understand? What if she rejected me? I stood there frozen, my heart pounding in my chest. Finally, I took a deep breath and walked into the room. My mom turned around and smiled at me as if nothing was wrong. "Hey, sweetheart, what's up?" Her voice was calm, warm, almost reassuring, and I almost doubted myself. Was this really the right moment? Was I overreacting? But then I reminded myself, no, I had to do this. This wasn't just about me and my mom. It was about standing up for who I was. "Mom," I said, my voice shaking just a little, "we need to talk." Her smile faltered for a moment, and she set the spoon down on the counter. "What about honey? I need to know what's been going on." "Why have you been telling everyone that you think I'm gay or bi?" I asked, the words tumbling out faster than I'd intended. For a moment, there was a heavy silence. My mom's eyes widened, and I could see the realization settle in. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but then closed it, seemingly unsure of how to respond. "Where did you hear that?" she asked, her voice tinged with surprise but not quite guilt. "From my sister," I replied flatly. "She told me what you've been saying to everyone. I need to know, why are you talking about me like that?" My mom shifted uncomfortably, clearly caught off guard by my directness. She took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. "I didn't mean to upset you, honey. It's just that, well, you've been spending a lot of time with that friend of yours, and your behavior around him is different. I'm just worried about you. I want you to be happy to find your way." I felt a sharp pang in my chest. It wasn't what she said, it was how she said it. It was as though she believed she could make assumptions about my life, about my identity, without even asking me. "I've never said anything about being gay or bi, Mom," I said, my voice more firm now. "And I don't appreciate you telling everyone else your theories about me, especially when you haven't even asked me how I feel." She opened her mouth to speak again, but I didn't let her. I needed to get this all out. "I've had girlfriends, Mom. I've never hidden that from you. But just because I haven't been dating anyone recently, it doesn't mean I'm suddenly something that I'm not. I'm still me." But you've been talking about me behind my back, telling people that you think I'm gay or bi, and that's not fair. You're treating me like I'm someone I'm not, and it's messing with my head." She was quiet for a long moment, and the silence between us was deafening. I could see the conflict in her eyes. She was torn between wanting to protect me, wanting to make sure I was happy, and the reality that she had crossed a line by speaking about me without my consent. "I'm sorry," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I guess I got caught up in my own thoughts. I want to be there for you, but I'm scared. I don't want you to go through something alone if that's what's happening." I stared at her, feeling a mix of emotions. Part of me was relieved to hear her apology, but another part of me was angry. Angry that she had made these assumptions without asking me, without really listening to me. "Mom, I need you to trust me. I'm not going to tell you something I'm not ready to share, but I need you to stop talking about me like I'm some kind of puzzle to be solved. I'm your son, and I'm still figuring things out just like anyone else. I don't need to be labeled, and I definitely don't need you to talk to everyone else about what you think. If I want to talk about it, I will. But it's my choice, not yours." She nodded, a tear welling up in her eye. "I understand. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel this way. I just want what's best for you, even if I don't always know what that is." I felt a lump in my throat. It wasn't easy, but it was a start. The conversation wasn't perfect, but it was real. We were both finally talking, really talking, instead of letting misunderstandings build up between us. "I love you, Mom," I said, my voice softening. "And I know you want what's best for me, but I need you to respect my space and my choices. I'm still me, no matter what anyone else thinks." She reached out and pulled me into a hug, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt like I could breathe again. There were no more unsaid words hanging over us. We had cleared the air, and even though the conversation wasn't easy, it was necessary. After the confrontation with my mom, things didn't immediately go back to normal. It was awkward between us for a few days. Neither of us really knew how to act. Especially with my sister in the mix, still harboring the secret she'd spilled. It felt like there was an invisible wall between me and my mom, despite the apology. I wasn't sure if we could completely rebuild the trust that had been fractured by her assumptions. And honestly, I wasn't sure if it was something I even wanted to rebuild right away. I spent a lot of time reflecting on the conversation. My mom's apology felt genuine, but there was a part of me that still felt unsettled. She had crossed a boundary, and although she expressed regret, I wasn't sure if she truly understood the depth of what she had done. The fact that she had spoken to others about me, about my sexuality, without asking me how I felt, was a huge violation of my trust. It wasn't just about labels. It was about my autonomy. I didn't want to be dissected or treated like a riddle that others had to figure out. One evening, about a week later, I found myself sitting in my room, scrolling through my phone, when my mom knocked gently at the door. She didn't wait for me to invite her in. Instead, she opened the door slowly, her face cautiously peeking in. "I've been thinking a lot," she said, her voice low, "about our conversation, and I want you to know I'm still here for you no matter what. I may not understand everything, but I do want you to feel comfortable talking to me." I looked up at her, my heart still a little guarded. I had processed the apology, but hearing her voice again, so gentle and uncertain, made me realize how complicated this situation was for both of us. "Thanks, Mom," I replied quietly. "I just need space to figure things out. You know, it's not about you, it's about me." She nodded, understanding but still looking unsure. "I get it. I just want you to know that you don't have to carry everything alone. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." Her words lingered in the air, and for the first time I truly felt the weight of her desire to be there for me. It wasn't about her imposing her thoughts on me anymore. It was about her showing that she was willing to listen without judgment. It was a small step, but it was enough to start healing the wounds that had opened up between us. The next few days were filled with more honest conversations, not always about the big stuff, but about the little things that matter just as much. We talked about my future, about my college plans, and about my friends. There were moments where we laughed together, and I could feel the distance between us starting to shrink. My mom was trying, and that meant something. But still, there was the matter of me. For the first time in my life, I was really questioning myself. I had always known who I was, or at least I thought I did. But now, thanks to my mom's careless comments and the way she'd made assumptions, I found myself doubting everything. Was I gay? Was I bi? Was I just confused? The questions swirled in my mind, making it hard to focus on anything else. I didn't want to rush into anything, but I also didn't want to continue pretending like I had all the answers. I spent more time with my friend, the one who had been at the center of this storm. His presence didn't make things clearer, but it did offer me comfort. He wasn't pressuring me to be anything I wasn't. He simply accepted me for who I was, which made me realize that I didn't need labels to be comfortable in my own skin. One evening, while we were hanging out, I brought up the topic. "You know, my mom has been talking about me like I'm gay or bi," I said, my voice tentative. He looked at me, his face serious. "Do you feel like you're gay or bi?" he asked, his tone kind but direct. I shrugged, unsure of how to answer. "I don't know. I've never really thought about it much before, but now, I don't know. I guess I'm just figuring things out." He nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "That's okay, man. Take your time. There's no rush to figure it all out. Just be you. That's all anyone can ask for." His words were simple, but they gave me a sense of relief. I didn't need to have all the answers right now. I just needed to be honest with myself and give myself the space to explore who I was without the pressure of expectations. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about everything that had happened over the past few weeks. It had been a whirlwind of confusion, hurt, and self-doubt, but it had also opened the door to a deeper understanding of myself. I didn't have to fit into anyone's mold. I didn't have to be what my mom or anyone else thought I should be. I could be me, and that was enough. The next few weeks felt like a delicate dance. I was still trying to figure things out, trying to understand myself amidst all the confusion and assumptions. My mom, despite her earlier missteps, was still trying her best to be supportive. She didn't push anymore. The constant questioning stopped, and the air between us grew less tense. It was as though we were both trying to rebuild what had been damaged, but neither of us knew exactly how to proceed. As for my sister, the situation was more complicated. I had caught her glancing at me with a mixture of curiosity and guilt, almost as if she regretted telling my mom what she had. I wasn't angry with her. She had been trying to protect me, but in doing so, she had exposed me to a level of scrutiny that I wasn't ready for. I tried to avoid confrontation with her, not wanting to bring up the betrayal again. She hadn't meant harm, but the damage had been done. One afternoon, a couple of weeks after the whole incident with my mom and sister, I was sitting in my room when my mom knocked again. This time she wasn't asking to talk about the things that had happened before. It was more of a casual visit. I looked up from my phone and she smiled, though it was tinged with uncertainty. "You're still quiet these days," she said, sitting down on the edge of my bed. "I just wanted to check in. How are you doing?" The simplicity of the question caught me off guard. She didn't press me, didn't try to delve deeper into what had happened, or demand that I explain myself. She was just there. "I'm good," I replied, trying to sound reassuring, though a part of me still felt like I was carrying a heavy burden. "I'm just taking things one day at a time." She nodded, her expression softening. "You know, I may not understand everything about you, but I want to support you however I can. I'm sorry if I've made things harder for you." Her words felt like a weight being lifted off my shoulders. She wasn't asking for forgiveness anymore. She was just showing up as a mom who loved her child even if she didn't have all the answers. "I know, Mom," I said quietly, feeling a surge of appreciation. "I'm still figuring it out. I just need some space to think." She smiled and reached over to squeeze my hand, a gesture so simple yet so comforting. "Take all the time you need. And remember, no matter what happens, I'm proud of the person you are." I could feel a knot in my chest loosening as I processed her words. Maybe it wasn't about having all the answers right away. Maybe it was about feeling loved and accepted even in the midst of uncertainty. I didn't need to fit into a box, and neither did my mom. We were both learning how to navigate this new reality together, one step at a time. The days that followed were filled with small moments of connection. My mom and I had casual conversations about things that weren't related to my sexuality or my identity. We talked about life, school, and my future. It felt nice to just exist with her again, without the weight of constant judgment hanging over me. For the first time in a while, I didn't feel like I was under a microscope. But then a few weeks later, my sister came to me looking nervous. She hesitated before speaking clearly, unsure of how to approach the topic. "Hey," she began. "I just wanted to say that I'm sorry for telling Mom about what we talked about. I didn't mean for it to blow up the way it did. I just thought maybe you needed help." I could see the sincerity in her eyes, and while I was still hurt by the fact that she had betrayed my trust, I could also see that she was trying to make things right. I took a deep breath, trying to set aside the lingering resentment I felt. "It's okay," I said softly. I know you didn't mean any harm. I just needed more time before everything got out in the open. She nodded, relieved. I just want you to know that I'm here for you no matter what. I don't care who you love or who you are as long as you're happy. Her words hit me harder than I expected. Despite everything that had happened, despite the secrecy and the misunderstandings, my sister was still the person I could turn to. In that moment, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt before. I didn't need to have all the answers yet, but I had people who cared about me, and that was enough. A few days after that conversation, I had another talk with my mom. This time it wasn't about sexuality or confusion. It was about our relationship and how much we had grown from the situation. It wasn't perfect, and there were still moments of awkwardness, but we were learning how to communicate better, to understand each other more deeply. I know I've made mistakes, my mom said, her voice more confident than before. But I want you to know that I'll always love you no matter what. I love you too, I said, smiling for the first time in weeks. And I'm starting to understand a little more about myself. It was a long road ahead, and I still wasn't sure exactly where it would lead. But in that moment, I felt hopeful. Hopeful that I could move forward, that my mom and I could build a new relationship on a foundation of trust. And that above all, I could continue figuring out who I truly was on my own terms. The journey of self-discovery isn't linear, and it doesn't happen overnight. But I was learning that the most important thing was to be true to myself, to allow myself the grace to explore, and to trust that no matter what, I would always be accepted by the people who mattered most. If this story touched something deep inside you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Reddit Jury for more raw, emotional journeys like this. Every voice matters here, including yours.